Hey guys, Mishka here. Alright, today's video is going to be about affixes on weapons and armor. So, what are they? What are the best ones? What do they all do? We're going to be going over that. So, 1 second to pull up my tab in OBR. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. What are affixes? Affixes are basically little customizable bonuses on weapons, armor, and rings. These little things at the very bottom that have different effects. It's like Elite Hunter, Unbending, XP gain, so on and so forth. So I'm going to go over these in order of weapons, then armor, then rings, and I'll tell you which ones I prefer and why. So going over weapons, we have Lightning Forge. Lightning Forge means that there's a small chance that when you hit an enemy, all enemies within a radius are going to take additional damage as well. Not bad for clearing trash, but there's much better ones, and this will get everybody killed on boss 2 of Raid, so people don't typically use it. Charge strikes every 10 hits. I believe it's 10. I've heard 10, 12, and 15, but I believe it's 10. Every X hits, we'll say, is a crit. It's nice, but dot damage will eat those charges up, like poison and affliction. I'm sure some point somebody's going to figure out a way to use that to their advantage, like, haha, I had 8 hits on my poison, so I shoot a normal arrow and then I charge piercing on a weak point and it crits for 1 billion points of damage. Somebody please do that. Giant Killer against elite and boss level enemies, I believe. I know it's bosses, I believe it's elite as well, but we'll say bosses. For boss level enemies, you do 3% extra damage. That's awesome. Lifesteal, there's a small chance that you'll heal yourself for a percentage of the damage you hit an enemy for. That will activate healing tiles, so be aware that that will cause interference, and it's not a lot of healing, so people don't typically use it. Unbending, every 2 minutes, if you would die, you instead get dropped to 1 hit point and survive. That's awesome. First strike, your first hit against an unwounded enemy, so anybody that's at full health, is an automatic crit. That is amazing for PvP. We already went over charge strikes. Iceheart, against anybody with a slow debuff, you'll do 5% extra damage. And bleed, there's a small chance that if you hit an enemy, it will take 250% of the damage you just hit them for over 5 seconds. So it's a slow, damage over time effect. There is one more weapon affix that I don't have on anything. It's called Treasure Master. Whenever you kill an enemy, it'll drop like 3 to 10 dram. I don't use that ever. I don't think anybody uses it because that's not a lot of dram. So that's weapon affixes. Let's go over armor now. For armor, we have XP gain, 1%. I've got that on all of my armor so that it stacks. That's 4% extra XP. If you add that to the 25% XP for the bomb, and then if you're in 10% for PvP, that's a lot of extra XP. Yes, it all stacks. I don't know if it's multiplicative or additive. Either way, that's a lot of XP that you're getting. That's awesome. Let's see, what else we got? We got crit damage and crit chance. So my shaman has those. 2% crit damage, 1% crit chance. Guess what? That all stacks as well. So, yeah. You've got supercharge rate. I believe that's on my musket. Yeah, supercharge rate. 1%. Again, that all stacks. Projectile damage. 1%. Again, stacks. Incoming crit damage and dot damage. Incoming crit, I believe I have on warrior. Yeah, incoming crit. And then there's additional dot damage that you can get, which I have on my paladin for some godforsaken reason. Last but not least, there are rings. There are 5 affixes on rings. First one, Empowered. Your crits do 3% extra damage. Elite Hunter, you do X% extra damage to elite and boss enemies. I say X% because I haven't done the math to figure that out. There's also 3 others. There's Elite Protector, which you take X% less damage from those boss enemies, which would be nice for tanks. There's Clear-Headed, which reduces the duration of stuns and slows on you by 5%, and there's Sticky, which increases the duration of stuns and slows on enemies by 5%. So, that's all the affixes. Which ones do you want? That really depends on what class you're playing. So I'm just going to go in order and tell you why I picked what I did for each class. So we're going to start with Mage. Mage, I went crit chance, projectile damage. Because until recently I was casting at about 2 spells a second. I'm still working on catching back up now that I've got the index. So there was plenty of opportunities to get crits. So I buffed up my crit chance because the more hits I do, the more crits I'm going to get, and the higher my crit chance, the more damage I'm doing. I also did projectile damage because spells are projectiles, so you do more damage. For the weapon affixes, I've got Iceheart and Bleed. Iceheart because I do cast Frost, so that's another 5%, and Bleed because my fireballs can hit pretty high damage, and I like bleeds going on them. For rings, I've got Empowered and Elite Hunter because I want to deal more damage. I'm not a tank main, so it doesn't matter if I have tank stuff, I pretty much stick with the DPS ones. Ranger, I've got projectile damage, crit chance, because obviously everything that you shoot are projectiles, and higher crit chance means you're going to be critting more often, that does more damage. For the bow, I've got Iceheart Charge Strikes. I'm not sure if I want to keep Charge Strikes. I think I want to switch it to Bleed, and I'm not sure if I want to keep Iceheart or Giant Killer. I like Iceheart, Giant Killer, and Bleed, and I kind of cycle through them depending on how I feel. Iceheart and Bleed is going to be a flat like 8% extra damage to enemies if there's a slow. Charge Strikes, I guess. I'll have to look at Scott's data and see what he comes up with. But with the new DPS changes, I think I'm going to change this. For Bard, I've got Unbending. It doesn't matter what the second affix is, as long as I stay alive. As a healer, my job is to keep everybody alive, and if I'm dead, I can't do that. So I chose Unbending. I believe when I ran the test, projectile damage did increase the healing of your crescendos. So I went with projectile damage and crit chance because a crit heal is always awesome. Shaman, crit damage, crit chance. Even though they changed lightning totems so that it doesn't respawn on crits anymore, it still has the same chance as your crit chance, if that makes sense. So the higher your crit chance, the more often your lightning will respawn, so crit stacking is still a thing. And crit damage, I believe, I'm not entirely sure if it's crit damage or projectile damage will do more. I haven't run the math. This is what I went with because I was told that's how you get the most damage. Warrior, Unbending, just like healer. If I die, the team dies. So for tanks, I need to stay alive. So Warrior and Paladin, you see I got Unbending. For the affixes, I like supercharge rate and incoming crit damage because crits suck. So I try to mitigate that as much as possible. And then supercharge rate, that super, if you mess up your rotation or for some reason your shield is down when it needs to be up, it's nice to have that save. It'll save you. Scoundrel, I've got Unbending Bleed. I think I'm going to switch off of Unblending. I think I'm going to switch off of Unbending soon and probably go with Giant Killer or Iceheart. And then projectile damage, crit damage. You don't need crit chance because your crit chance is already ridiculous and you'll deal, tons of crits. So go ahead and go with that crit damage. You'll get more damage out of it, and obviously you're shooting projectiles. Musketeer, supercharge rate and crit chance is what I went with. I'm not sure what's going on with my helmet here. Maybe this is the last piece of raid gear I got. But supercharge rate, because that super will save people if it's really bad. You can get all your orbs back right away. And crit chance, because like I said, crit healing is awesome. I've got Lightning Forge Unbending on it. I need to get off of Lightning Forge, but I don't have a huge stock of Effervescence, so I'm not re-rolling things right now. And Paladin, like I said, I've got Unbending, and then this is my XP gear, so all of them I have XP gain, and that's really all I worried about, because I don't play Paladin that much. So those are the affixes. I hope that helps. Broke down what all of them do, let you know which ones I pick and why. If you check out the official forums, Scott has a breakdown for each of the DPS classes, including what affixes are best. That was before the DPS change, though, so check with Scott if you're going to use that information. Make sure it's still up to date. I'm not entirely sure. Scott is way smarter than I am when it comes to those numbers, so I can't tell you one way or the other. But this is what I personally use. So I hope that helped. Yeah, if you got any more questions, let me know. I'm always here to help. So till next time, happy hunting.